Virtually every leader in the health freedom movement talks about the insecurity of the food supply as one of the primary avenues of tyranny. Our family has rigorously sourced our foods for over a decade, and one of our favorite sources is Farm Match. And specifically, if you are in San Diego, Real Food Club PMA. My kids are literally made from their maple breakfast sausage and the amazing carnitas we make from their pasture-raised pork. But from regeneratively raised raw dairy products to the organic potato chips made in regenerative lard or anything you might get at your local farmer's market, our family's overall wellness and the security of our food lies in the hands of Farm Match and Real Food Club. I am so excited to be sharing about Farm Match and Real Food Club to offer Future Generations podcast listeners 10% off your first order. You can find the code and link in the show notes. Enjoy the rest of the show. Love and appreciate you all. The desire to go off-grid and disconnect from the system was one of the single most important initiatives any household could have. Whether it is growing our own food, becoming sovereign in our energy production and usage, establishing alternative communication strategies, or digging a well and finding the infinity of primary water. About a year and a half ago, our family moved into our new home in North County, San Diego on 3 acres of precious land here in America's finest county. One of the first things we did was hire Food Forest Abundance to design a regenerative layout for our land. From the different trees to plant differing berry guilds and synergistic pollinators, to consulting on alternative energy, collecting our rainwater, and even helping us find our local well guy, Food Forest Abundance and their Freedom Farm Academy has been pivotal in the gradual and consistent evolution of our household towards true sovereignty from the system. They have helped us simplify a very confusing process and helped us create the design of our dreams. It doesn't matter if you have 3 acres, dozens or hundreds, or just a small yard. Food Forest Abundance has something to offer you and your family in your journey to move your entire household off-grid. Use the code TheFutureGen to work with the absolute best in the world, Food Forest Abundance, to create your own freedom farm and get off-grid at a discounted rate. Welcome to another episode of the Future Generations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stanton Hom. This episode is my first solo cast in months. We are celebrating 2 years here in Escondido, our Future Generations Clinic of Chiropractic. We are celebrating the grand opening of our back unit, which is going to be a educational, inspirational space with aligned providers. If you're an aligned provider and you're looking for a home to practice with, in collaboration with the best chiropractic clinic in the world, please inquire with our team. We're going to have a workshop space that is going to have not only practical, applied, amazing health people coming in to talk and help you transform your life, but also some of the best educational pieces in the entire health world, but also the freedom world. Why is this important? It's important because we have spent 2 years rebuilding the thing that we grew for over 10 down south in San Diego. We had to start over. It's been a lot of stress. It's been a lot of craziness. Now, more than ever, we have a community around this organization, a community around our brick and mortar practice. I don't think there are more important things, especially with the rumblings of monkey POX, right? Like, I don't know, the censorship stuff today, all the rumblings of mandates and lockdowns from the World Health Organization. Literally, we're going to start seeing that with our county supervisors. We're seeing the city of San Diego mandating all sorts of crazy things. And we know for a fact that 4 years ago, we took a stand for our community. And now, in the end, we just know that we have a community and a city and a mayor, and we have a literal neighborhood around us that in many respects believes what we believe. And we're going to nurture that community, and we're going to inspire that community. And this party that we're going to have, our Summer Fam Jam, is always a celebration for our kids. We always have fun activities. We're going to have a bounce house. We're going to have some sort of really fun summer dessert. But on the opposite end of things, we're going to grand opening our backspace, our beautiful backspace, a huge investment of time, money, energy, and focus. And in the end, we know for a fact that it's for you. September 7th, 10 a.m., Saturday, 324 South Calmia Street, Escondido, California. If you are part of our community, you will hear about it every single day ad nauseum. We want to have as many people there as possible, standing room only. If you are a listener and if you have been a part of our community virtually, if you're in the county of San Diego, you are more than welcome to show up and be a part of it. If you are in North County and you've been waiting for a moment to figure out if you wanted to be a part of this community, we're going to have direct offers that are only going to be available at this event that we know are going to inspire a lot of people to be a part of our community. At the end of the day, this is about you. This is about community. This is about transforming health. This is about health freedom. This is about so many things to celebrate 2 years in one of the most amazing parts of the America's finest county. And we can't wait to share it with you. This entire episode is a deep dive into where we have been, a deep dive into where we currently are, and a deep and inspirational dive into what is possible and what the vision for what is to come. Genuinely love and appreciate you all. Please share this episode far and wide. Welcome to the Future Generations podcast, providing you with the world-changing content necessary to inspire you, your family, and our planet to a life of optimal health potential. We'll help you make the choices that powerfully influence the lives you bring into this world. It's time to strengthen our resolve, do better now, and for our future generations. I'm your host, Dr. Stanton Hom. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first solocast I've done in, it's got to be months. I have no idea how long it's been. However, it couldn't be more important than ever to talk to you directly, not through the interviews that we've been doing, which I have absolutely loved. I would say that the Future Generations podcast is attracting some of the best guests that we've had in a long time, having some of the best conversations, and I would say making some of the biggest impact than we have in our inception. You know, we are in somewhere in the ballpark of 200 plus episodes. And honestly, I feel more excited about the conversations that we're having now than we have in a long time, especially because, you know, with regard to San Diego and regard to Southern California, it may be, in some respects, having some local leaders on to include Amy Reichert, who arguably was one of the most influential during the, quote, lockdowns with Reopen San Diego, and, you know, running against Nathan Fletcher down in District 4, being so vocal in the county. And then at the same time, I would say just now, like, being so embedded in the grassroots awareness of everything going on in the county is so dramatically amazing. It's so absolutely beautiful to see Amy's impact. And also, I just interviewed, which this will not release before before this episode, but Corey Gautereaux is not self-proclaimed, but he is the expert on the San Diego border situation. And a lot of stuff, obviously, in election year, hyper-politicized. But this guy, in my opinion, is one of the most humble people that I've actually gotten to meet and get to know and follow, and has at his finger on the pulse of an issue that is far more important than we could ever recognize, especially in San Diego, but literally for the fabric of this country. It is so much more than the hyper-politicized and what absolutely gets put onto the network, right? On the social networks and all the different platforms. It's crazy to look at and consider, because in the end, when somebody's actually boots on the ground looking at actual evidence, he probably has a single biggest collection of evidence of what's happening at the border than any single person that exists today. And he's just a dude. He's a veteran. He's a respiratory therapist, has his own unique perspective on COVID, aligns with us 1,000%. And he is 100% trying to figure out what the heck is happening, because he sees not only the invasion, but he sees the child trafficking and all that type of stuff, right? To include, which the episode just releasing before this episode is Mayor Dane White, And he's become a good friend of mine. Somebody I connected with, followed his campaign for Escondido. We knew we were moving up here. We closed escrow on our office. We got kicked out of we closed escrow on our home, and then 2 days later got kicked out of our office. And then we had this 90-day window to find a space, to open a space, to start Future Generations Escondido, and to fast forward 2 years, and I get to meet with him at a networking event, and he recaps and says that he is having the time of his life, and he's fifth generation Escondido, but to have a mayor be so vocal about so many of the things that are happening in our county is so helpful, right? To know that this person, who would ask me kind of very early on about just things that I was learning about, things that I was concerned about, things that I was looking at, things like surveillance, things like cameras, things like all sorts of gnarly things that were happening in this whole kind of agenda for the World Economic Forum. This mayor was very interested in, and he, in this interview with me, was like, let me tell you what I've learned over the last 2 years in office about how San Diego is literally rolling out Agenda 2030 through SANDAG. And you may not know who that is in your jurisdiction, but SANDAG is essentially our transportation and climate, whatever you want to call it, board that is forwarding all these things that are creating 15-minute cities and all sorts of things like that, right? Why is this important? It's important because a lot of people don't believe in elections, and a lot of people don't believe in politics, and largely at the federal level, I don't know if I do at this stage. Actually, I know that I don't, but at the ground level, the grassroots level, it's so remarkably important that I feel so blessed to have an ally like the mayor, who's a young guy, who's a father, who absolutely credits his faith for a lot of what he brings into his work. And he also says that, he has a team that he believes in, and he actually knows that the people in office, in his staff in Escondido are very much aligned with a lot of the values that he puts forward. But at the same time, if they're not, they're able to work together in a small unit to make sure that our kids in our communities are not only just safe, but they're American, right? They're free, and there's all sorts of aspects that are really, really important. And so to give that as a recap, as far as like where we've been with the podcast, it segues into who we have become in our clinic, right? And I will say this, humbly, that, if I could recap, 2020 to 2024, essentially Future Generations became the only clinic, the only pediatric and prenatal clinic, which arguably family practice that specializes in the highest level of clinical care, that stood for the truth and stood for, I don't know how to express this, in the most politically correct way, but stood for the future generations and the freedom of our future generations, the health freedom of our future generations, than any other practice in the world. And I say that because I know a lot of the people who are some of the best, quote, influencers in the world. And I know that many of them actually left practice. I know many of them left San Diego. I know that many of them kind of got lost in terms of their, influencer status, and lost the fact that the single most important thing that we saw with lockdowns was that businesses, in-person brick and mortar businesses, were under assault, that these small businesses were absolutely under assault, and people needed a home base. They needed aligned places that were willing to not just bow down to all of the kind of tyranny that was normalized and paraded and celebrated in. And when I spoke to a group of chiropractors, some of the top chiropractors in the world, something I mentioned to them was like, you may not recognize, but the significance of a brick and mortar business is understated. Because everything is, virtual, everything is instant, everything is, you can click a button and somebody delivers it to you, right? That's on purpose by this agenda. But the brick and mortar business that is focused on health and focused on optimizing health and different paradigm of health completely outside of the system, that is focused on freedom, that is not just, bromide and not just a saying. It's actually just helping people realize that their health is the foundation to their life. And if their health is compromised, that they're vulnerable to the system, right? That is driven by interest, driven by pharma, driven by, all these tyrannical measures that have been completely normalized, right? And so when I talk about things like that, I can't tell you how proud I am of my team and proud of our organization and proud of the people who are in our community, because in the last 2 years, I summed it up, in my notebook here as 3 kind of foundational aspects. Number 1 is we've had the best results ever, the best results in our practice, especially as it results to pregnancy and birth, especially as it results to kids. And we have this premise that, the families that are in our practice are safer, they're healthier, and they're more free than the families that are not in our practice. And the reason why is because you need nurturing in a paradigm, a belief system of health that is far out of the system, right? And you need a practical application of that is driven by your body healing itself, but it's also followed up by nurturing and nourishing yourself with aligned practices that help that self-healing aspect of things. Because if your body self-heals, then you don't need things on the outside of you to cure you, right? Or a doctor to save you, or you don't need a system to fix you, right? And in our world, it's really about teaching kids and normalizing for kids who I've been saying these statistics for, over 12 years, right? 1 in 6 kids has a learning challenge. 1 in 8 kids has an anxiety disorder. 1 in 11 kids has ADHD. 1 in 28 kids in California has autism. 1 in 22 boys. 1 in 13 has severe food allergies. The average age of adult onset diabetes is 13. The youngest age of adult onset type 2 diabetes is 3. And a lot of those statistics are over a decade old. When I asked families that are versed in natural health and families that are completely new to natural health, like, are these statistics worse? If they're 10 years old, are they worse today or are they better today? Every single parent unequivocally says they are far worse than the history of the world. And we have more doctors, we have more hospital systems, we have more drugs, we have more shots, we have more interventions and more resources. We actually have more, no offense, we have more functional medicine labs, we have more tests, right? We have more natural providers than ever. And we still see this rocketing statistics of our kids' chronic health issues. And parents know it, and they know that they don't have the answers in their own current healthcare, quote, team, right? But the best results that we're seeing are things that are actually just impossible through a drug. They're impossible through conventional pediatric medicine today. They're impossible because no one's actually focusing on the root cause, and no one's actually focusing on the thing that they know intuitively is the root cause, which is the nervous system. The best results, that's number 1. Number 2 is that we have the best team. And I say this with my, with all the humility in the world, because we have been blessed with some of the best team members in the history of teams. We have done amazing things for our community. Heart of Freedom 1, December 12th, 2020, in the heat of Newsom's, whatever, like his whole, like the curfew, right? And we're like, let's do an event. And we found a venue that was owned by a Russian who understood communism and understood tyranny. And he's like, what are you guys going to host here? You guys going to host a, like Bill Gates taking over the world thing? We're like, bro, you want to speak on our, and we thought we were going to sell a couple hundred tickets. We sold 808 tickets. We had 1,100 people there. Heart of Freedom 2 was in March 27, 2021. Right after that, I got deplatformed twice because you can't tell about the truth, right? December 21st, 2021, like almost, December 11th, December 12th, 2020, December 11th, 2021. I had to get that right because I just absolutely, these dates are like my wedding dates, right? My children's birth dates. Like they're so important to me. 2,000 people, Liberty Station. We've had teams that have created world-changing, not just San Diego changing, world-changing events. And I still believe that the team that we have today has a level of synergy, a level of deep rapport and respect, not only with the brand and the company, but with you, the patient and the consumer. And we have more than ever, like, really tried to transform from the inside some of our systems to be more aligned with not only the results that we're getting, but also for like a community that we haven't done before. Like, it's a personal and professional growth engine that I feel like our team is so committed to. And I think those of you who have made it to our clinic, you know that. You know that because they're willing to create and hold a space for compassion, for empathy, for warmth and welcoming love and healing. But they're also prepared to create and hold a space for strong leadership, for authority, not in a bad dictatorial way, authority in terms of like how to help people like commit to achieve the health results that they're looking for. And I would say just generally, like, we have some of the best character-based people that is in one piece, the majority, like every single team member is that level of deep rapport that I believe is something that some of the best organizations are built around. It's a huge blessing. I could never do the things that I would do in the world or in the clinic or on the podcast or anywhere in the world if I didn't have the team ready to back up everything that I needed to get done. The last is as I was sharing before, we have the best office. And I say this because podcasts are important. And I think that we have one of the best parenting like forward podcasts that are focusing on kids, but empowering parents, not only with the health like tips and tools, but also like the mindset and the belief systems. That's so radically important. But podcasts and platforms they're immaterial, right? They're important, they're impactful, they're life-changing, they're so amazing. They're global, right? They're expansive, they're infinite, they can go and go and go. But there's something about a brick and mortar business and a brick and mortar business that's health focused and a brick and mortar business that is hands-on, right? When kids heal in our practice, when babies heal in our practice, when mothers have the birth of their dreams in our practice, that is not really something egoic that we say we helped or we fixed or anything like that. But we have created and held that space for that transformation, and through the art of chiropractic, delivering excellent, clinically excellent care on repeat with 2 and hopefully 3 soon of the best chiropractors in the world. Like, and I said it humbly, right? I say that humbly. And I used to tell Dr. Ryan this because he was, the most eligible bachelor chiropractor, meaning everybody was trying to like hire him. Some of the like top biggest practices in San Diego were trying to hire him, and he chose us because it was that I think it was that character-based thing and in the initial stage, and then the clinical workup that we were known for, and now it's just family, right? Now it's just recognizing that we have the best county in the world for chiropractic. In the world, San Diego, pound for pound, is the best county for chiropractic in the world, and we are literally the best clinic getting the best results in this county. And I say that humbly, right? I say that humbly. And I say it because we have a unique lens. And the lens is health freedom. And I'm going to qualify and define that statement for you because it's bastardized. And I believe, and I stand wholeheartedly in the position that the health freedom movement that exists today is actually, if you actually dive deep into it, it's actually not at its root healthy. And actually, it's not at its root free as it can be. And we've defined it specifically. On one end, it is something we've done repeatedly, predictably, consistently, on repeat for 14 years, which is normalize vibrant health for all generations. We know that because when families start care in our office, not only do they see the chronic issues unwind and unravel and heal, right? But they start to see that, yes, your chronic challenge may go away, but what actually increases at the same time, and it's actually infinite, is your holistic health, right? Holistic health is kind of just this woo-woo term that a lot of people actually misunderstand. It's actually your holistic health, which is your body, mind, spirit. It's actually your physical, mental, emotional, social, we call it nutritional, etc., all those forms of health. But we know that that's infinite, right? Like you could have a great night's sleep tonight, and tomorrow you could have a better night's sleep. You can nourish yourself in sleep hygiene over the next 6 months, and you could optimize that exponentially, right? And you choose that thing. It could be sleep. It could be your peace of mind. It could be your gut health. It could be your overall hormonal regulation. It could be your fertility. It could be all sorts of things that actually is infinite. And I believe that in our world, because of how we define health freedom as normalizing vibrant health for all generations, we see that the longer that kids are in our practice, the healthier they are. And the younger siblings that are in our practice for a greater percentage of time, some of them their entire lives, will continually increase their vibrancy and their health, because that's how God made us. Like, we were literally designed for optimal potential. And today, we don't know where that top bar is. I firmly believe that we have no framework for the optimal potential of humans, especially regarding our health, than we ever have. Go back to the episode with Mary Reichert. Go back to the episode with Alex Zek. Go back to the episodes that have talked about these models of health in ways that largely we have no framework for how optimal we can be. It isn't just reducing chronic issues. It isn't just healing neurodevelopmental challenges. It isn't just healing your gut and these major autoimmune challenges. Those happen because you do those other things absolutely well from the inside out. And that's a whole other conversation. The other conversation is around health freedom as it is absolutely fighting for and defending when necessary your inalienable rights, your freedom, right? Especially, 4 years ago, we started to see, people were like debating, what do we do? And how do you know what's right or wrong? And the reality for me was like, well, why have we normalized the First Amendment going away, right? Why is free speech and censorship normalized today? And why do people accept it, right? The free speech that I subscribe to is that not only do I defend my own free speech and my children's free speech, but I defend the people who are actually in the exact opposition to me to express their fullest free speech as well. I don't want the people who believe the things opposite to me to be shadow banned and deplatformed off of Instagram and other platforms like we have, right? I know today that I lose on my platform, collectively, I lose 1,000 followers a week. I grow by 1,001 followers, so my platform stays exactly the same. But I know for a fact that people aren't leaving because I don't post that much, and I don't post things that are that offensive that people are actually going to not follow me at that rate. It's not possible, right? If the playing fields were level for everyone, they know, the powers that be, who would win, right? The other aspect is the whole, First Amendment aspect of the freedom to assemble, the ability to have full portability, right? The ability to actually just move throughout society, whether it's going to church, right? Freedom of religion, that was not protected during COVID. But the right to assemble, the actual ability to move portably, right? When we normalize passports and we normalize checking people's, statuses for their medical, choices, which was always protected by HIPAA, like that's problematic. And we actually allowed it, right? As a society, we allowed it because we said, okay, I'm going to wear this thing over my face, even though the research shows clearly that not only did they not work, but they harmed. And that's another thing, right? When we talk about inalienable rights, are we normalizing a mandate, right? Illegal mandate of an experimental product, right? That largely somehow, if you interview enough people who got the shot, who were participating in all the things, the deep-seated reason why they did it wasn't because they were worried about their health. It was mostly because they wanted to go to places. They wanted to see their family. They wanted to travel. There was a lot of things. They wanted to keep their job, right? How many things were leveraged at the time? And in my world, when I look at this entire process, it isn't just fighting for and defending your freedom, but it's from the inside out embodying a state of freedom that is actually in complete, it repels and is repulsed by mandates like that. Right? If you actually understand embodying freedom, you would recognize that, in our practice, I hope you're welcome if you want to wear the thing over your face, and you're welcome if you're not. And actually, I have a premise that if you believe that you need something artificial like that outside of you to protect you or to protect others, that you might need more education, more inspiration. You might need more health practices that help you realize that the, quote, metaphorical mask you have within you, building your immune resilience, building your hormone regulation, building your neural adaptivity, is actually far more important than anything you can put on the outside of you or kind of poke into your arm, right? Health freedom is twofold. One is normalizing vibrant health for life. That's where we want to stay. We want to stay in that state of optimal vibration and high energy states of healing all day, every day. And we want to recognize that when these rumbles of tyranny come down, that we are also a brand and a company and a clinic that is going to just not play those games. Right? In the beginning, I used to tell patients, I have 3 demographics of patients that I would say should never wear a mask. Number 1, children with special needs should never wear a mask. Number 2, pregnant women should never actually wear a mask. Right? If you actually think about forcing pregnant women to birth with a mask on, to labor with a mask on, and then forcing them to stay separated from their own child that they grew in their own womb without a negative COVID test is actually medical tyranny that affected baby in that moment and will continually affect baby if they never actually have the bond they should have postpartum through the lens that we understand of an optimal natural childbirth, right? So in the end, to be 2 years into literally starting over in so many ways. Starting over, we've had 17 team member changes in the last 2 years. To literally starting over, meaning we had so many people that were willing to commit to come to Escondido, and many of which did and still do, many of which have been with me since I started my first practice. They were babies in the womb who are now 12, 13, 14 years old, to people who literally are commuting from Humboldt, from Chula Vista, who are commuting from LA, people that are commuting in a long way because they're committed. They're committed to not only their own health, but they're committed to the way that we help inspire them for that health. But starting over and being able to rebuild in a way that you can see this chapter, right? Those of you who are a part of our clinic, who have been following us on social media and have seen our back unit, you know that there's an expansion coming, right? There's an expansion that we've invested in you. We've invested in the community that we have. We have invested in this brick and mortar entity and business that is not only clinical, but it's very educational, it's very inspirational, right? My dream has always been about having a backspace that was not only full and busy and profitable and all those things, right? But it was a vessel for the tribe, right? Everybody heals in a tribe. I've learned over the last couple of years that my son would not have healed with only chiropractic. That's not me having a misunderstanding what chiropractic is. We had to find a neuro-optometrist. We had to find Beth, his PT. We had to find people that were aligned with our paradigm of health that could help captivate the radical healing that he's experienced in his world and his life, and he would not have. Right? I was just DMing a mom who's been following us for so long from Florida because she has a son that's very similar to my son, and she's like, I've been going to a nervous system doc for a long time, and I don't know that we've seen the results. And I had to tell her, like, sometimes it's that as a foundation, and there's other people in the tribe. We want those people as a part of our back space and our back unit who are going to cohesively collaborate with us in all the things that I've shared already, but also in a way that is completely different than the way that we provide the care that we do. Because we know that people heal with a village. And chiropractic is not the only thing, right? My mentors would always say, just because you're well-adjusted does not make you well. Just because you're well-adjusted does not make you well. Back in the day, there were chiropractors that thought they could smoke and drink and eat a bunch of fast food and eat a bunch of like unhealthy stuff, live a poor lifestyle and get adjusted. And largely back then, they got better still. They maintained a healthy state of their nervous system function back then because they weren't literally marinating in 80,000 chemicals every single day, completely man-made. None of them tested for generally regarded as safe in concert with one another. So we know that the adjustment isn't the only thing you need. But we also know it's impossible to be well without being well adjusted. It is impossible to be well without having a healthy nervous system. It is impossible to be well not to have good what we call neurospinal integrity, right? Good posture, right? Because your posture is your frame and posture is your relationship with gravity. Gravity is a 24-hour force that our system has to navigate not only like fluidly and positively and with great mobility and adaptability and agility, but that's how our nervous system works because the spine is your suit of armor, right? It's the only system that's completely surrounded by bone is your brain and nervous system, but we don't know to take care of it, right? Everybody brushes their teeth. Everybody goes to the dentist. Everybody, might floss. Everybody knows their dental hygiene is super important. And when I ask patients, hey, do you do your spinal hygiene exercises, especially new ones, they're like, I've never heard those two words together. And we haven't because chiropractors have never defined that for them. We're going to do that, and we're going to continue to do that, even in a better way than we ever have before. With a backspace that not only has has 2 rooms for aligned providers. So if you're a line provider and you're looking for space to rent to do the thing that you love to do that would collaborate with the work that we do, reach out to our team because we would love to have you. And we would love your services to help captivate even greater senses of healing for our people in our community because we're humble enough to know that the adjustment is a foundation. The nervous system is a foundation, but it's not the only thing. So many people have asked me what I do to stay mentally and physically resilient in the midst of the unending polarization, fear, and tyranny. Literally nothing has made a bigger impact for me than daily cold plunging. 3 minutes, 37 degrees every morning for over a year now. My friends, I wanted to tell you about the Edge Tub from Edge Theory Labs. Their portable and inflatable tub can alternate between an ice bath and hot tub. I've been regenerating the benefits of cold plunging every day, like better sleep, better focus, and more energy. We have had some really amazing interviews to learn more about cold exposure. But in the meantime, I invite you to check out Edge3 Labs website to learn more. I'm also happy to share an exclusive offer for Future Generations podcast listeners, $150 off using the code TheFutureGen. You can find more info in the show notes. Get cold. What's up, FG fam? One of the single best companies whose products have supported the optimal wellness of our family for years is Earthly Wellness. Kate TG and her team have stood for truth, health, and freedom in ways that paved the way for so many of us. They experienced heavy levels of censorship long before it was popularized, and they stood strong and persevered. Their products are clean, cost-effective, and honestly, they work for all ages. From supporting my wife, our oldest, and our little guy, Earthly Wellness provides products that have been foundational for our family for years. We especially use their products right before bedtime. Their Feel Better Fast and other herbal tinctures are some of the best in the world, as well as their amazing Goodnight Lotion, the magnesium oil, are mainstays. I am so excited to be partnering with Earthly to offer Future Generations podcast listeners 10% off your first purchase. You can find the code link in the show notes. Enjoy the rest of the show. Love and appreciate you all. We have a workshop space that I wish I could just be in right now. The build out it took a little longer than I expected. And now we're at that point where it's like my wife is going in, and this is her thing. This is her greatest inspiration, is literally building a beautiful space. Her aesthetics, her ability to kind of design internally, like what a space looks like, how it flows, her ability to create a beautiful decor, which if you've been in our front office, you know that she's already just creating it. It's her canvas. She's been in there since they finished, since we cleaned, and she's been putting in pieces that in a week is going to be transformed. In a month is going to be transformed. In 6 months and 6 years, you will see it completely transform. But it's for you. Because the space that you operate in is the space that allows for the optimal education, inspiration, but then the action taking that is congruent with the thing that you learned. In my view, and it's my experience, you can do that in a monastery on the top of a mountain in the Himalayas. You can do that in a hut somewhere. You can do that in different tribes. And I believe in ancestral practices for sure, but I also know that in Southern California, in Northeast County, San Diego, in the city of Escondido, that this space is going to be the single most beautiful, but the most transformative space, education, inspiration-wise. My goal is in the world. My goal is that this space is the most transformative, educational, inspirational space with regard to your health potential, especially as it relates to our brand, our children, pregnant mothers, babies, dads too. All generations are going to have something in the space to literally transform. Because the vision in my mind is that everybody has a bloodline, everybody has a family tree. Right? I've done this on our podcast, right? I've done this talking about like the meditations and the visualizations I've done that in literally to get you, let's say your children, right? Where they are today, because each of us who listen to this podcast are largely parents. Some of us are grandparents, right? We're parents. Our kids aren't yet listening. Some of them are. Some of them know my voice now. Parents will tell me. But if you go back 10 generations for your children, or if you go back 10 generations for yourself, right? 11 generations for your kids. Most people have never really contemplated this. But to go back 10 generations for you, parent, mom or dad, over 1,000 people had to literally come together and procreate, not just meet, not just come in contact, procreate, to have you. Think about the odds, the infinite number of things in each person's life, right? Over 1,000 had to come together, procreate, to actually give you a chance to be alive. If you take those 10 generations and you add your children in them, it's over 2,000 people. Because it's both sides of the family. It gives me the chills to think about that, right? Because today it's like YOLO, like it's like these things we don't even think about, right? The transhumanistic agenda of like transhumanistic genes, right? The mRNA therapies, those types of things, their target was to change the genome so that it actually wouldn't procreate moving forward. That's why you see fertility is on the right, or infertility is on the right, miscarriages on the right, stillbirths on the right. We're seeing so many of those things, and yet humanity is still going forward because everything that's within us is far greater than anything they can make outside of us, man-made. But I think about that every day. I think about my kids. My wife thinks I'm nuts. I'm not going to say that like this is normal in my family. My wife and my daughter think I'm absolutely nuts. I think my son's going to pick up on this, and I hope that he does. Because I'll need someone, or else I'm going to be the only one that's absolutely nuts in my family. But I think about that. 2,000 people that gave us an opportunity to be alive. I think about the 2,000 people that gave us an opportunity to be a family unit. And I can't ever let go of that significance, because that's the moment I want to live in every day. And that's the moment I feel about our back unit, is that the people that we're going to have come in and teach, the organizations that are going to maybe have homeschool events, the people that we are going to have come in and share like workshops that help you, empower you, transform you. The ones that are going to come in, we have a mom that I'm hoping we can get on the regular to do human garage fascial work with our kids, because she's seen dramatic transformations in her own world. She introduced me to Gary Lineham. I got to interview him. And the Human Garage is a 20 million person movement that they say in a year is going to be 250 million, like a big country. That we're going to have offerings for people every day, multiple times a day, for you to come in and literally get dipped in a completely new paradigm, a completely new belief system, a completely new actions that create habits, that create disciplines, that create systems and rhythms in your life that shift the trajectory of your family tree in a direction of what we know 80% of adults today have a chronic illness. 54% of our kids today have a chronic illness, and nothing in the system helps you leave that system. And we're going to create everything outside of the system. We're going to make it totally available to you. And we're going to do it on repeat, because we know for a fact that when we do, it's not a matter of if you and your family heal. It's not a matter of if you and your family's trajectory of your family tree moves into a better direction of health and vibrancy, resiliency, adaptability, etc. It's a matter of when. And when is not something I determine. When is something God determines. But God will literally do that based upon the actions and the habits and the systems and the rhythms of discipline around healthful practices that you could ever install and make normal in your family. In my view, I can't tell you how excited I am. It hasn't been easy, I'll tell you. Maybe some of you have been around long enough to remember, like a few months into our new office, like I developed Bell's palsy, right? One, I was stressed out of my mind, but two, like I know there's a framework and vulnerability in my family to shedding, right? Many of you who are new listeners may not know what that topic is. I encourage you to go back to those solocasts. And it made me deep dive into my belief system around that, because in the end, it's like, wait a minute. If I believe in this internal recuperative power, this internal healing capacity, this innate intelligence within my body, why am I so afraid of this external thing? And it's because every day our environment is changing. And we look at the world in a framework of three general categories. One is your genetics, right? You can't change who your parents were. You can't change who those 2,000 people were, those 1 to 2,000 people were, right? We know that we are the outcome of that procreation that you can't change. You can't change a single person in that lineage that changes your genes. You can change the expression of your genes, which it's another class and another recording. So why fixate on that? Why fixate on the thing, the psyop, right? The psyop of the system is, what's your family history? Well, you have diabetes in your family. Your 3-year-old has blood sugar dysregulation. Well, it's only because it's genetic. No, it's not only just because it's genetic. This is because we've inherited these different habits over time, and we can tell clear as day, the more we let the industries into our lives, the more we create chronic health. The industry, including the medical industry. So don't fixate on your genes, and don't fixate on the belief system that you're lassoed by your genes. The other is your environment, right? The environment we can change to some degree, right? We moved 30 miles up. When we did the antenna search recently, because one of our team members moved from where the office was, where there was 2,500 antennas, 5G, all the different EMF issues, 2,500 around our old office. This office now, 50, Escondido, right? We looked up that. You can change your environment. You can move 30 miles and change your environmental load. But there's certain things you can't change. You can't change when they spray. You can't change. I think a couple months ago, my mentor sent me a text saying, hey, in Escondido, they're going to spray for mosquitoes. Why do we have mosquitoes in San Diego? We never did before, right? But we do now. And they're spraying them, right? They probably put them there, and now we're spraying them with some sort of thing that was literally like water bodies that we probably are going to be at some point, right? You can't change your environment to the degree that outside of moving, which a lot of people are, right? And I believe that because Escondido has so many generations in like our mayor's 5th generation Escondido, and he's not the only one that I've met that's like, hey, yeah, my parents came here on horse and carriage, or not my parents, but my lineage came here on horse and carriage. So there's genetics. You can't change that. You can't change any of anything who your parents were. You can't change any of those 2,000 people 11 generations ago. You can have some influence on your environment, which you should take account for. You should have air doctors, right? You should have some sort of air purification system. You should account for the water that's going into your home and going into your bath and going into your food and then going into your hydration that you are literally like hydrating from. You should take account for the EMFs. You should protect your home. You should take account for all those different aspects of things. And the entire environment, right? People are talking all about mold. You should take account for mold in your living quarters, in your food. All those things are super important. Those are things that you can make some change around. But the third arm is your lifestyle. It's the things that you live through every single day. How you eat, how you move, how you think, how you sleep, how you socialize, how you build community, how you actually live your life on a day-to-day basis is 100% governed by your choice. Dare I say that, right? Dare I say that a controversial term, your choice, right? But the families who teach their children and inspire their children to live lives that are more in alignment with who we are as a human species, that embody and bring in disciplines around ancestral practices, right? Like bone broth is a thing, right? It was trending more a couple years ago because it's not trending now because most people just consume it, just use it every single day. But that's been since the dawn of man that invented fire, right? That we learned that we could literally build a nourishing food through boiling bones, right? Breath work is an ancestral practice that somehow 4 years ago they said, we're going to control your breath, right? We're going to change your breath. We didn't know that they stole our breath because we didn't own our breath. But the children who understand these ancestral healing practices, the biohacking practices that know that the choices that they make, the actions that they take, the habits that they bring in, the systems and the rhythms and the disciplines around health that they bring in are going to, from the inside out, create better nervous system regulation. It's going to create better self-healing adaptability. It's going to create better immune resiliency. It's going to create better mental acuity and all the different holistic aspects of health that I talked about before. That third arm third three-legged stool, right? The third stool, the third leg of the stool, the lifestyle stool, is by far the most foundational because it's 100% changeable every day. And we know that one of the greatest lifestyle habits that you could ever make is the doctor that you choose for your children. I'm a big believer of you heal you. I'm a big believer that you don't need me. I don't want you to need me more over time. I want you to need me less over time. But I do know that parents are navigating world, the natural health world, the health freedom world, has parents with kids who have challenges. They're already versed in this kind of natural health thing, natural healing thing, because they've never understood the power of the nervous system. And they never understood chiropractic as a vessel and a vehicle to drive nervous system healing in a far more effective, a far more sustainable, and far more habitual way than any other practice in the world that is literally something passive, something somebody does for you. And a doctor needs to have a perspective, a premise that says, over the time that you are with me, my job is to help you need me less. My job is to work myself out of a job. My job is to create an obsolescence. I make myself obsolete by making you more mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but physically resilient through the lifestyle habits that you have. And we then check and adjust you because it's truly a wellness and a maintenance regimen. Just like you would check up your teeth, right? Long story short is this is going to be the most inspired chapter of my life, and I feel so excited about that. I feel more service-oriented now, today, and more connected to my community today than I ever have in the history of my practice. And I feel very blessed that you're listening to this, and I feel very blessed that you are, if you are in our in-person community and practice, that you choose us. I don't take it lightly. It is literally the greatest honor of my life to take care of the families in our community, and it is literally something that I don't take lightly when mothers bring me their children. And I know that Dr. Ryan feels the same way. I know that our team feels the same way. And I know for a fact that every team member we've ever had knows that this is what we believe. And I know for a fact that many other chiropractic offices do similar things. And I also know that the clinical excellence that we deliver on a day-to-day basis is far superior to virtually 99% of those. And the way that we build and support our community and educate and inspire our community with the truth of not only what the world is, right? The world and the tyranny and the crazy mandates and all the things that come down, all the science that they make up, literally make up, but also what's far more vast is the truth of you and the truth of your kids and the truth of the innate intelligence and the infinite brilliance and beauty that they have within them. That your body and your mind and your soul and our community and your family's ability to heal is far greater than we've ever been led to believe. And that we know of future generations that our moments with you, that our clinical workups with you, that our care plans and recommendations with you, that the commitment we inspire in you, that sometimes lasts years and over a decade and decades because we're not going anywhere, are all pointed at that investment, helping you realize that you and your body's ability to heal is far greater than you've been allowed to believe. And we're just going to continue to allow you to believe more and more and more and more in that beautiful potential. If that makes me if that makes me worthy of censorship, if that makes me worthy of deplatforming, if that makes me worthy of being targeted by the county supervisors back then, if that makes me worthy of being targeted by the public health measures, if that makes me worthy of all those things, call me whatever you want to call me. Pseudoscientific, I don't care. Quack, I don't care. Because that truth, no one will ever get me away from. We say expect miracles, not because it's catchy, although it is. We say expect miracles because no one could ever convince us that there's a greater miracle than the miracle that is literally the life inside you. Summer Fam Jam, September 7th, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 324 South Calmia Street, Escondido, California, 92025. We're going to have bounce houses. We're going to have food. We're going to have music. We're going to have speakers. Speakers so far are Mayor Dane White, Amy Reichert, Kendra Meister from the Indie Soul, my kids' nature school, amazing homeschool program, Kevin Muno from Perennial Pastures Ranch, and we're going to potentially have one or two more. Dr. Ryan Kaiser, arguably the best chiropractor in the whole world, brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He can kick my ass. And then yours truly. And I believe we have an amazing host in one of my best friends, Miles Grimes, who is also deleted off of Instagram 11 times. Most people don't know that today because they just delete us and we don't really have followings anymore. But long story short is we're going to have a killer program. We're going to have amazing things for our kids. We're going to have amazing food. We're going to have, hopefully, some nice treats from local companies. I don't want to say those names yet because, maybe to the tune of ice cream or gelato, something like that. But we're going to give tours of our space. It's going to be a grand opening for our back unit. And I can't tell you just how excited and inspired and so happy I am to be entering this chapter and to be entering this chapter with some of the best people in the world in my team, obviously my wife and my children, but especially you. Genuinely love and appreciate you all, and I hope you can join us. September 7th, 10 a.m., 324 South Calmia Street, Escondido, California, 92025. Future Generations Clinic of Chiropractic. And we're going to party. Love you guys. As you probably know, I'm the clinic director of the Future Generations Clinic of Chiropractic. I wanted to invite those of you in the greater San Diego area to come check us out. We expect and experience miracles in our office every day and would love for you to experience the same, as well as your family, especially your kids. This month, we're offering our new patient package for just $67 for podcast listeners. The offer retails at $349 and includes an in-depth consultation where our patients literally tell us we know more about their family's health in the first 15 minutes than virtually every doctor on their healthcare team combined. Our state-of-the-art clinical workup, including insight nervous system scans, full spine digital x-rays, and a functional exam. We also include a full report of your results, a customized plan to realize your greatest health potential, as well as your first adjustment in our office. Check out the link in the show notes for all the details and claim the offer. Love and appreciate you all.